good evening to everyone from all parts of the world who have registered for this webinar today. Hope you and your family are doing safe in the COVID times. Our best wishes are with you. Today we are having a great event related to how emerging tech-based transformation is evolving the manufacturing sector. Now, to begin with, let me introduce myself and the company to you. So, my name is Nitin Naveen, and I'm the Vice President Innovation Strategy at AI Core Spot. I'll be your host for the day. Further, I've been joined by my colleague Arvind is there, and Naveen is there as well, who's in the backstage, who will also assist me in keeping the event lively and resolving technical glitches if it comes in between. So thanks a lot to them for putting in hard work and making this one a huge success. We'll try to provide a seamless experience to all of you so that you can gain maximum output out of today's session. We'll continue to do industry-backed webinars and the hybrid events. The knowledge repository will be made from reliable data through industry leaders, subject matter experts, thought leaders, and our technology partner, Digit7, which you can see the slide of one slide my colleague has just projected. You can click on the pin option and you can make it a bigger one to have a glimpse of that. I'll talk to them about in the later part. So whatever we are doing will enrich all the content through the videos, blogs, podcasts, newsletters, and digital content to shed light on the ever-evolving technology industry. Our mission is to serve as a hub for information regarding Industry 4.0, which includes AI, ML, deep learning, digital twin, AR, VR, robotics, blockchain, IoT, drone, analytics, 5G, edge AI, computing, and so on. Let me provide a brief background to all of you about AI Core Spot. We started last year, obviously backed up we will enrich the content. So today's webinar. Let me talk about the today's webinar, which is an important thing for of you have registered for. It's one series of event which we have planned this year, power packed with panel discussion themed around role of technology in the manufacturing space. Also, there's a half-day virtual event which is happening in April 22nd. The theme is the factory of the future. How smart will our factories get in 10 years from now? There we have around 11 great leaders sharing their thoughts. So kindly attend that event too. We'll share the link for that particular one. There are lots more in store for subsequent month as well, with focus on technology in supply chain, tag annotation, retail, aviation, and so on. So request all of you to go through our website, that is aicorespot.io, through which you have registered as well for future updates. Also, please like our social media handles, which will keep you all updated on everything what we propose to offer in the coming months to follow. Before starting with the day, I'd like to highlight few things so that it can set up the tone for this amazing day. A special mention to our technology partner, Digit7, who has helped us in understanding our vision and creating this platform through which we can help achieve our objectives. Their support is immense and guidance regarding all the industry technology is superb. So some introduction about Digit7 to everyone. Innovation is the cornerstone of Digit7. You can see in the slide which is in front of you. At Digit7, they create unique platforms and products catering to the Industry 4.0, which is looking out for innovation. Their products are designed to solve real-time problems and are customizable to suit anyone's business. Adding to that, the products which they have can scale up at ease as the business grows. They have some great association with trusted brands such as AWS, Azure, IBM, SaaS, Adobe, Salesforce, Sterling Commerce, amongst others, which help them constantly upskill practitioners and champion the partners' best delivery methodologies. Professionally, they are also associated with some great bodies like Tech Titans, Forbes Technology Council, CompTIA, Richardson, IQ, University of Texas, Dallas, and much more to leverage their contrasting standpoints and the diverse skill sets. In a very short span of time, Digit7 has created storm in the market with 15 plus patents, which speaks of itself. As every one of you can see, they have four great products mentioned in the slide. I'll quickly touch upon them so that you can get a glimpse of that. First one is Digit7 Digit Shelves, which is the IoT-driven shelves and transforms retail with reliable and accurate on-shelf inventory management system. The second one is Digit 7 Tag Square, which is an AI powered auto annotator with 80% downsized hands on work. It is the optimal automation solution specifically designed for all deep learning and computer vision applications, including object recognition, behavior analysis, and the facial recognition. The third one, which is a very important one, which is called Digit 7D Grab, which is a tech driven, frictionless, cashier-less store for a super simplified shopping experience that lets anyone shop in and out faster. And the beauty is that it's easier and much convenient than online shopping. The fourth one is Digit 7 Fly Robo, which includes autonomous drones with non GPS warehouse and inventory management at the retailer's end. Amongst all the great features, it is designed to fly indoors where GPS is not accessible. One can gain 10 times more impact on inventory counts with smart drone technology while keeping stock of inventory effortlessly. All the four products are easily customizable, cost effective, and can be used in every industry where technology is needed. They have a great lab of 15,000 square feet in Richardson, Texas, and any one of you who are dropping by can all go to the office and have a look at that. To understand more in depth, to partner, all of you can go through their website, that is digit7.io, and closely liaison with them. Now coming to our community partners for today, which includes InfoVision, BCC Group International, Breaker Manufacturing, ATEC companies, Buck Automation, and Slipknot, who came together to make this event a success. A special mention to speakers and attendees of the event who registered and came today to achieve their objectives through this forum. At the end of the day, if you gain few knowledge driven tips out of this platform or to get to network with each other, then our core objective as a platform will be achieved. Further, if anybody wants to ask question, they can type in the Q&A section, which is there in the right side of the menu option. As when the panel member discusses, we'll try to get it answered during the discussion or at the end as per the time permitted. There's also a hands button at the bottom of the screen, which you can see. And you can even raise the hand and come to the stage to ask questions to speakers as well in the video format. Now, I'll hand it over the stage to Bill, who is the president of BCC Group International and the moderator of the panel discussion as well. Along with him, there's few great leaders who are present. Alfonso is there, who is VP of Sourcing and Manufacturing, Brecker Manufacturing. Craig is their digital transformation business leader at tech companies. Buck is their founder and CEO, Buck Automation. And Christopher is there, who is the CEO, Slipknot. All are the speakers and the thought leaders for the day. So over to you, Bill, to take this discussion forward. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Nitin, and thank you, Arvind. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Great. All right. Listen, I'm really excited about this subject for today. And as Nitin mentioned, I mean, emergent technology and innovation are definitely transforming the manufacturing industry. As you've seen in many of the recent articles and so forth, more than half of the manufacturers are expected to be investing in emerging technology. They recognize that it's going to reduce expense, it's going to reduce costs, it's going to amplify productivity, it's going to serve clients better. So we're all excited about this subject. I know you are all as well. Today, we're going to focus on 5 aspects of manufacturing and explore how emergent technology is advancing them all. The 5 areas are design, deliver, maintain, optimize, and control. So thank you very much for joining us. I'm Bill Beards. I'm going to be moderating the panel today. I come to the table with 35 years of IT experience, working for companies like Citibank and IBM and a few other firms. Today, as Nitin mentioned, we have some distinguished members of the manufacturing industry here from all over the country, from California, Minnesota, Massachusetts, New York. And I thought what I'd do is let's start off with a few introductions from them. Craig, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Sure. Hey, everybody. I'm Craig Trumpy. I am out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Like mentioned, I work with 8 tech companies. I am the digital transformation business leader. We're a diversified company with aluminum foundry, with plastics rotomolding, with electronics assembly. And on the side, at night, I teach in the data science program, in the graduate program at the University of St. Thomas. I'm also part of the Center of Applied Artificial Intelligence there. So artificial intelligence is way up my alley. On the manufacturing side, I have a background in vibration analysis. I'm a board member of the Vibration Institute here locally in Minnesota. So that's a bit about my background.
All I want to know is, do you get to go to St. Thomas to teach your classes? That's all I want to know.
I used to go there. Now we're doing them online, and we'll see if we go back here this fall.
Great. Buck, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Buck Crowley, and I'm in the Boston area. And my orientation and specialty for 55 years has been workflow, the automation of workflow. And people say, well, aren't you going to put people out of work? And the answer is, we have never in the history of mankind had a lower unemployment than we have now. And you go back 50 years ago, and we didn't count all kinds of people we consider today. Women, for instance, weren't counted. And so consequently, not only do we have the lowest unemployment, we have the highest automation. And those two are completely contrary to the concept that we in fact eliminate jobs from that. So that's basically what I'm all about. I've done it in many industries, and it's all about actuators and sensors and things that can move things around. But it's workflow. It's finding ways to keep people from injuring themselves or be in a more safe environment. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Buck. Chris, can you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks, Bill. My name is Christopher O.J. Dominguez. I'm here in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm a chief operating officer for Slipknot. And at Slipknot, we develop and manufacture electric rotary joint technology, which connects stationary electric exciter with a rotating axle and spinning electromagnets in motors and generators. The technology was designed to be a maintenance-free alternative to slip rings used in rotors of generators and motors. And we aim to enable technologies that reduce expenses and operational costs, particularly giving an edge more in renewables and wind turbines, geothermal drilling, industrial water pumps, and even transportation. So we're a small part in one of the most used electric parts machines in all of society. So we're definitely embedded in both design and manufacturing, and in fact, we'll talk more about how our existence is a result of these technologies.
Great. And Alfonso?
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Alfonso Aramburo, and I have a background of over 15 years in manufacturing, pretty much. That's all I know, guys. So I'm very happy, very excited to be here and share whatever it is to go over these pointers. Now, at Brescher Manufacturing, what we do is we help on the manufacturing side, whether it is rotomolding, CNC machining, injection molding. So we got a little bit of everything. it's how we like to call it. If not, we've been embedded into operations for quite a while, and we're noticing a huge change in what is in the way that we do business, the way that we operate, especially post-COVID. So very excited, very happy to be here, guys.
Great. Thank you very much, Alfonso. So let's jump right in. Let's talk about design first of all, and I'm going to turn to you, Chris. At Slipknot, give me some background as to how Slipknot addresses the design phase of bringing a product to market. And obviously we're interested in emergent technology. So what new things are you guys doing in the design phase?
Well, I mean, just the access to digital computer-assisted design, that both from internally and also in order to go through prototyping, leading us easily to using 3D additive technologies. That really is a game changer in the design process, going from a design on paper or on screen to seeing it in physical form is faster. Not having to go overseas to do manufacturing, to build a prototype, test it, and then do it again and see and make sure if it's going to work. That's a game changer in that process, and reduces that time between making adjustments in the field and making those changes in the manufacturing side. And obviously, 3D printing right now is not fast enough for manufacturing necessarily, but certainly in the design prototyping, although we'll talk more, there are some industries where 3D printing is the final product. We are looking at 3D printing a motor and a generator, and building all that parts from a 3D printer. There's 3D printing rockets, which is amazing, that they can build the product from the ground up just from 3D printing it. So just in that design phase, going from concept to changing your design and manufacturing it right there, that's a big difference. So 3D printing absolutely affects the design phase.
Yeah. So just thank you, Chris. So jumping over to you, Craig, for a minute. I mean, from your perspective, having so much experience working with students, and also where a lot of the innovation is coming from, right, from the younger minds, right, and also with AI and predictive edge analytics. I mean, what any comments you want to make on the design phase and how things are changing rapidly?
Sure. I mean, the thing to keep in mind on design and linking out to this AI connectivity, AI is all based on data coming at it, right? So from a design perspective, what are you doing the same or differently with your data? And in the manufacturing element, as Buck is relating to the automation, the availability of data, for example, in your existing plant, in your existing PLCs, is that the right data? So if you're designing a digital transformed manufacturing, what are you trying to do differently? What are you trying to do better? And from a data design perspective, do you have the right data? Do you have the right frequency of the data or resolution of the data? How do you clean and prepare that data from a design flow so that you can use that in your work processes? And I'll stop there, and I'll let Buck kind of take it and comment on some there. He's, I know, had his hand up.
Well, I was just going to mention on 3D printing. I spent 20 years automating in the printing industry, and in the printing industry, the traditional printing speeds, which have been around for 50, 60 years, are 200 objects per second. In other words, newspapers and book pages are coming off at a rate of 200 a second. And there's 6 technologies used in printing, and all of them qualify in that kind of speed range. So what happens if you think about 3D printing, it's nothing but one layer. So there's a bunch of technology available. It's just hasn't risen to the surface, but it's there, being able to print 3D printing at 600 copies per second. The most obvious one is xerography, which is a thermal printing. You can actually take toner and xerography and melt it. It's a plastic that's how it gets put down. And so if you take and just run a copy through a xerographic machine at 200 a second, you build layers up out of thermoplastics, much the same we do now. And those machines use inkjet, which is 600 to 1200 jets per inch. So you get extremely high resolution, extremely fast speeds. And when that technology comes on board, then we'll have 3D printing will be as common as, in manufacturing, will be as common as book production, which can basically do almost 1 million pieces of a million layers in this case, in an 8-hour shift. So I think that's something that's going to switch the emerging technology is going to switch things over. That's what I had my hand up.
That's great, Alpha. Thank you so much, Buck. And Alfonso, any final thoughts on the design phase of this?
Yes, absolutely. Just like Christopher was mentioning, 3D printing is one of the, I mean, nowadays, even though it's a technology that has been around for quite a while, that technology wasn't used as much after the patent was done, was finished pretty much, right? That was out in the open. And what we're seeing is that some of these technologies are coming out, and we are seeing more availability on not only 3D printing, but also tools such as RTV tooling, right? Which is processes very similar and that go hand to hand with prototyping processes. So what it is it's resin that is poured into a silicon mold, right? And that's another technology that we're seeing nowadays that is being more used, that we hear more that people are using nowadays. So the name of the business now is availability, right? Is how can we launch this product to market sooner, the quickest, the better, and the most cost effective. And I don't think that's going to change ever. In fact, to Buck's point, now it's how can we make this process better, right? How can we make this printer, this technology, whatever it is that we're seeing, so that we have products readily available to us as consumers. So now we have, after COVID, we are seeing a huge flow of products coming or being produced near shore. So we're seeing more RFQs here. We're seeing more people trying to think of better ways to get their products on time as well. Again, guys, it's availability.
Yeah, I think the initial investment is obviously the toughest thing, right? Getting the technology you need, but also then paying for the technology you need, right? It's all part of the trick. But the only way really to innovate is through technology, and we know that. That's what we're here to talk about. Okay, let's change channels then over to the delivery side of the house. And Craig, I'm going to come to you on this. You've obviously have a lot of experience, working in the IoT space and some of those technologies. And I'm wondering if you could just give some opening thoughts about, how things are changing in the delivery side of the world when it comes to emergent technology.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, from the IoT standpoint, IoT is Internet of Things. A lot of people associate that with adding sensor technologies. Sensors provide streaming data to work with that and understand and make decisions, intelligent decisions or artificially intelligent decisions on your delivery, your operations. And so, from a delivery standpoint, is how is your production running? Where are the risks in your production? What is the planning and scheduling of your production and or your maintenance related to your production? From an availability standpoint, we speak of that in maintenance as well, as what is the availability of your equipment? What is the health of your equipment? And so IoT and the data that we're adding to manufacturing is to do the inspection that maybe humans were doing in the past, but with the shortage of labor are not perhaps getting done today. And we're seeing an increase in equipment failure or production downtime and or loss of availability. And so it's deploying sensing technology to bring data to automate or use artificial intelligence rules to provide insights and improve delivery.
Great. Buck, I'm just going to go for you for a second. You've had 55 years of experience in the delivery space, I'm sure, right? So what? Any thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on. Craig hit it on the head. It's very often people don't realize that sensors are really what it's all about, and it's all about gathering information. If you're going to do artificial intelligence, you got to have intelligence. So, and Chris's slip knots are fundamental to my work because they're traditionally thought of as ways to get power in and out, but we use them to get sensors in and out. And I'm working on a project right now that has to know the internal temperature of a tub of soup that weighs about 8,000 pounds being manufactured at one time, and it's being turbulent. And I've got to tell what the temperature is at different places inside of that that big bowl of soup they're making. And the answer is I have to bring it out on slip knots because everything is in fact turning, and I need the low noise capabilities of a non-contact connection for it. So that's my first thought, is that sensors are really very much a part of everything. Did you want me to go on, Bill?
No, actually, I'd like to hear some. You're making me hungry, by the way. Just so you know, I actually want some soup now. But Chris, what are your thoughts since Buck mentioned you?
Yeah, I was going to actually say, not to minimize the importance of our rotary joint. I know that when in our customer discovery, we did look at trying to send, like you're saying, send information from something that's moving to something that's stationary. And like technologies like Internet of Things, you're looking at they're using Bluetooth. We're seeing the use of Bluetooth for timing, even for generators, and sending data between parts. It gives you not only live data for design and for optimization, but necessary live data for timing for motors and generators. They're seeing that technologies as well.
And Alfonso, not to end up with you again, but what are your thoughts there?
Well, we're definitely seeing. So we're talking. How do companies going back right to the availability, to the systems, to how everything merges into one thing, right? So we're seeing how companies now not looking to not only produce, but to also deliver things at a better cost. Now, can we? That's my take on that.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, good. Well, let's then shift channels over to the next subject, which is talking about maintaining. I mean, obviously, maintaining the manufacturing process as efficiently as it can be, and making sure it's always up and running and working effectively is obviously a big part of what we're doing, what you guys are all doing here. Let me start off with you, Alfonso, this time, just because because I've come to you last twice now. Any opening thoughts on things that you're doing or things that you're hearing that are being done in the spirit of trying to maintain and continue and advance the ongoing performance of your environment?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There is a lot of, I think you hit the nail in the head. This question, I believe it's what brings a lot of value to companies nowadays. And it's what I'm going to tell you. Everyone is looking for, how can I have better visibility of my shipments, right? So we do have some companies that are booming, that are being more transparent with their information. So data, Craig, you mentioned about how do we use information better? How we use that data better? This is it. Companies giving you or tracking freight companies tracking their trucks. We have the order processing, manufacturing companies giving you an access giving you access to their status of their orders. I mean, that's one thing and I believe that this didn't even start in manufacturing. This started in retail, and then it translated into manufacturing because people understood that customers, at the end of the day, the customer is going to lead the way, right? The consumer. And what the consumer is looking nowadays is to have better communication. It's to know where their product is, when their product is going to get, if there is any delay or any problem whatsoever. Okay, then what is happening now and what is happening next? I want to know, where is my product? Now, there is a lot of, and we're seeing more lean inventory systems, or in fact, software incorporating the lean methodology, such as minimum and maximum inventory levels. We're seeing software like Fishbowl, for instance, that is a fairly recent software that started with that premise in mind, is how can I make it easy for small and mid-sized companies to provide with that information, right? So we are seeing in some places, for instance, we deal a lot with Asia, Mexico, and U.S. and Canada as well. And what we're seeing is that in some places, they tend to communicate. It definitely varies the way of communication from place to place. Now, the fact that there are softwares out there that kind of standardize that system, it just makes it way easier, way better. And not to mention demand forecasting, the analytics, where these tools that it's giving you the data and you're able to to have information live, right? What is happening, like I said, now. So it's a very interesting things happening out there. But I think that and I'm going to mention and bring up again the fact COVID, right? I mean, COVID to us was a huge learning experience because not only we had labor shortages, we had to start thinking smarter. Okay, then if there are not that many people available to work or they don't want to get back to work, then what can we do? And the only way that you have there is to improve your systems or implement systems that will help you to get there sooner, quicker, faster, better.
Great. Thank you, Alfonso. Buck, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, actually, the information gathering or the IoT breaks down into two broad categories. One is management and the other is service. So management wants to watch a workflow or a process, and they want to know what their productivity is. In other words, do they have the capacity? And they want to know their cost. In other words, they've estimated widgets per hour and waste, etc. But when we have that instrumented, we end up having that information gathered. One of my projects was I put a waste bin on a majority of the printing presses in the country, and we weighed the waste as we were printing. And it was fantastic because you would pick up a sheet and say, oh my goodness, where did this come from? How long have we had that? You're going through the good, you find all these sheets, you throw them in the trash can. Now what's your net count? And so those kind of productivities by having a waste can instrument is a very profound view of things. On the service side of it, one of the projects I worked on was putting a cell phone underneath sewage covers. And so consequently, I can give you a telephone number and you can dial it up and put 10,000 different numbers in, and that will tell you the rate of flow of sewage and the height of the sewage underneath that manhole cover. It's good for a lot of jokes, by the way. X-rated jokes, that is. But those are examples of maintaining where you're trying to get information on service so you can find out where you need to get to certain areas in time and realize that the way it's going and that you've got maybe 3 hours or 3 days if you're going to have a major problem in that sewage line.
So Craig, who's the best person to lead this in your perspective? Who's the best person to be in charge of this kind of thing? We've got to make sure management is watching this, is maintaining this. Who's the best person to lead this, do you think?
Well, I think that's a great question. I get that often. Is it an operations technology person or an information technology person? I think either can do it efficiently well, but the first pitfall is your executive team needs to understand, what are you trying to do economically? Where is the return? How are you making the investment? What's the problem you're trying to solve? What's the cost of the problem? And therefore, what's the money you're willing to spend in the project? And then the point is not who the leader is, but it needs to be executed as a team. These are going to affect work process flows, as Buck has lived and mentioned. And so it's technology, but it has to provide a return on investment, executive involvement. It's going to tie into a network of information, IT involvement. From a manufacturing standpoint, it's going to be meaningful on the production floor. It's going to touch your operations people. So unfortunately, the answer is all of the above.
Yeah, and I think with these kind of decisions, like a decision to move to the cloud or something, right? Everybody needs to be communicated from the top down, and it needs to be everybody needs to be committed to it across the ranks, right? It's a big enough change what you're talking about here, right? Chris, any comment? Oh, well, Chris, go ahead, give me your comments, then we'll come back to you, Buck. Okay.
Yeah, I was really delighted when Craig mentioned the layers of people that have to be satisfied. That's such a poorly known object, which is that you've got management and you've got maintenance and you've got estimating and you've got accounting and you have all these departments. And when you implement something, each of them has to feel that this is for them, that there's something in there. So when you're designing a system to automate and to produce these kind of results, you need to go into the organization and look at all the people that could benefit and be sure you put something in for each of those people. And Craig did that very nicely, and I was delighted to hear that.
Great. Thank you, Buck. And Chris, any final thoughts on this?
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I wanted to say, especially from a startup perspective, when we're talking about who's involved in these technologies, certainly from our perspective, in order to get an edge especially in renewables, using AI and these technologies is vital to find that cutting edge in competition to get in there. So right off the bat, we look at all these technologies, particularly the possibility of using AI and machine learning to optimize wind turbine development and design, as well as collecting data for wind and renewable energy, which is not consistent in particular locations throughout the world. So these designs are being affected currently by blanket decisions based on one point of information or an average of data versus optimizing for locations. So using these technologies can and will bring better technologies in renewables, which will give it the edge it needs to be competitive in the energy market.
Yeah, and actually, that very good point on the wind turbines and the environmental. One of our questions we just got was about how the question is, with so much push into green and renewable energy, how will this impact manufacturing? And I think this is the perfect segue over to the optimized subject, right? So maybe I'll just go to you, Buck, if you don't mind, and to start this one off. What are you seeing in the efforts being made to optimize manufacturing, not only from a cost savings, but also from a environmental and efficiency standpoint? What are you seeing in your experience today?
Well, I'm very fortunate because I'm I've been in the printing and paper industry for a very long time. And if you don't cut down trees, they fall down anyway. And trees that fall down in a forest don't make healthy forests. So cutting it, and I grew up in the lumber business. My family's lumber business. I got started this very early on. But the truth is that so paper is very useful, and we're now seeing more and more cartons that used to be glass coming out in paper. We've had the milk carton for many years, but you can now get beer in a paper, so to speak. One of the projects I'm working on is that, and that I've done in the past, is we eliminate the middleman. In other words, years ago you made business forms, or you print stationery and you shipped that in. It was put into copy machines or productions, and I pioneered taking the rolls directly from the mills and eliminating all the forms industries, so that you could in fact just have the raw material right at the point of use, which is the most optimal. There's a couple of truisms in automation, and that's one of them, is you always want to bring it as close as possible. I'm now working on it with corrugated boxes. Right now there are over 200 companies in which corrugated boxes are made by rolls of paper that are brought in. And so a user of corrugated boxes in a trailer load, he'd have to bring in 10 trailer loads of corrugated boxes in place of one trailer load of rolls of kraft paper, which is the most basic paper you can get. And so and then you make a box, which is exactly the right size on demand for all the orders as they're coming down at a rate of 20 or 30 a second. and consequently you now double the capacity that the current vans, planes, and trucks are using to carry product for fulfillment, etc., because of the boxes are cut in half on the average here. So those are examples of all kinds of green production going on by just simply making the boxes at the point of use rather than through a whole infrastructure with 200 companies involved. Hope that's a clear answer.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Hey, Craig, any comment on optimization and efficiency and green and this kind of thing? Any thoughts there on how things are changing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is, particularly green, renewable energy impacting manufacturing. So, I'm seeing a lot of solar even up here in Minnesota. We didn't think we would see solar be a big benefit here, but you're seeing what we call solar gardens going in. We see solar going on the top of industrial buildings, on top of school buildings, on top of city buildings. And so there's really no excuse now, and I think most people see it, that solar efficiency and capability can be added. And there's many manufacturing sites that have open roofs and or open space. How does that affect or impact manufacturing? It actually, as we add more smaller spots of generation, we improve the robustness or reliability of our electrical network. And this doesn't mean that we're entirely going away from our backup generation capability, right? There's still going to be coal around. It's already built, and it can come online and come offline as necessary, along with gas. But we are seeing all of electrical generation, really new projects today are renewable, and manufacturing, the impact should be improved reliability of electricity because of the robustness and the addition of generation.
Yeah, one would think, yes. Alfonso, any thoughts on this subject?
Yes, absolutely. So what we're seeing is that the machinery that it's being created or designed, we're seeing more systems that help you manage power, right? Some of them that will be held in standby. We're seeing how some of these motors won't, depending on the capacity or on how much force will the machine need, will be the amount of motors that will turn on. That's something that's very impressive technology that we're seeing, that it's aiding and helping manufacturers produce at an even lower cost and even competitive. In fact, we're seeing that in these years, there's going to be some grants provided to manufacturers to help with that. We turn our heads to overseas, for instance. What makes them, it really helps them. I mean, at first we thought that labor was one of the main drivers that was pretty much keeping their costs lower. But now we're seeing that it's their processes, it's the machinery. What they do is they'll be buying cutting edge technology to help them reducing their costs. So there is definitely a return of investment embedded into the decision, right? And like Craig's saying, executives needs to be involved in this type of decisions. We need to know what is out there, because sometimes it just makes more sense for us to invest in a machine that it could be $1 million, right? That is going to be paid itself in call it 2 years, sometimes even, right? We had one machine that we introduced that were like, wow, it looks like a very expensive fiber optic or fiber laser cutter. And yes, it was probably twice the cost, but once you implement that, not only it'll save more energy, also the parts you will be able to produce them at a lower cost eventually. Of course, after that, it gets paid off. But I think here the lesson learned here is let us change the mindset from this is expensive to what is the return of investment that we'll get if we invest in solar panels, if we invest in whatever technology that we have. I personally think that there are solutions out there that can help us deliver better. We just got to be open to receive that information.
And the government is also incenting as well, whether it's through tax incentives or it's through other kinds of things. I mean, clearly there is a focus in the United States to try to get to be more green, right? Chris, any thoughts on this? And you mentioned the wind turbines earlier. Are there other things that you want to mention on this?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously we're embedded in wind turbines, so I definitely lean into that in talking about optimization. But it is an excellent example from design to manufacturing all the way to maintaining. Because it's so expensive. These things are so big. Offshore wind turbines, for instance, there's millions of dollars from just the R&D side of it. GE does so much R&D that they barely make any money from the wind turbines that they put out there. Getting the wind turbines out on the water is expensive and dangerous, and all these technologies that we're talking about cuts costs all along the way, including our technology that we've developed. But things like AI and machine learning can, for instance, look and predict weather for installing wind turbines, because it's dangerous to install in stormy weather. So when is going to be the date that you have to schedule your ship and get your materials out there? It makes a big difference in the cost cutting in just getting started. And you can see that across the board for all projects in that manufacturing, bringing manufacturing closer to home, bringing it closer to where you're going to be installing whatever you're building, any machine you're going to be building, as well as finding the optimized time to install it is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I can go back to what Alfonso said. I mean, I think in my point of view, there has to be an acceptance that there's going to be some money spent right now to get the efficiency and to get the optimization that you need. But you've got to, the return is there. The return is there, right? Okay, good. This was a great subject, and we probably could spend a whole hour on just this subject alone. So,
Yeah.
but let's just go to the final topic here that's on the list, and that is around controls. So any I mean, I'll start with you, Craig. Are there things that are being done to address common pitfalls that we have in manufacturing and to try to minimize challenges with manufacturing?
Yeah, I mean, so when I think of pitfalls from IoT and AI perspective, and let me tie it into a little bit of things that we've been talking about, but the first primary pitfall is, do you have the right data? Do you have the right information? So if I were to tie into this energy concept, and we want to be more efficient in energy or know whether our new machines use less or more energy, then we have to have that data. Otherwise, how do you believe it? How do you really know? It gets kind of lost in what we think it is, but you can't really feel good about the investment when you don't really have the data. So pitfall one, spend the money, get the data so you know concretely, did it return investment or did it not? And if it did, good decision, keep making those decisions. If it did not, get smarter about how you make that upfront decision. Okay. The next pitfall, I kind of skip through all the way through the connectivity and the collection of the data and getting it visible. And I get it to the point of, now you have the data. Maybe we talked briefly at a moment about visibility or a dashboard. I was in a conference and a gentleman said, the dashboard is dead. And most manufacturing says, great, we haven't even built a dashboard yet. But the point is, the dashboard doesn't do the work. It's great information, but what's next? And so we were providing good data and a good alert, right? We created an alert condition for a machinery that's about to fail. But the people in the organization, the management, the maintenance, the operations still were paralyzed. They got an alert, but now what? what do we do in English, right? Tell me. So the concept was, tell me exactly what I need to do in English or in my existing work systems. And so in the plant environment, some people are moving toward work order management systems. So we're integrating the data and translating it into a automated work order. In the past, an administrative person would type in the work order and wouldn't really understand the machine, wouldn't really understand the data, but it would get into the work order system so somebody could do the work. Now, with the data and the tech enabling technologies behind, whether it's cellular connectivity or Ethernet or Wi-Fi, whether it's communications technology like MQTT or RESTful API, whether it's availability of data outside of the plant to your third-party experts, or maybe your corporate office that has experts because they're not at your plant anymore, running it in a cloud environment, a secure cloud environment. And most importantly then is connecting it to that existing platform that people work from today and making it just happen. So they don't have to learn anything new. It tells them work order, do this and these steps.
Cool. So Alfonso, I'm going to come to you next, and I'm going to ask you to weave cybersecurity into your comments, because one of the questions we just got was around cybersecurity. So, Craig, while you were talking, the question came in. So I'm wondering if you could just talk a bit about cybersecurity and how that also is a part of this story.
Absolutely. And it's funny that it's my turn to answer that question, since I was doing a bunch of, in fact, we had to hack into our system to see how our system would behave. So our practice would be one person would try to hack into the system, and the other ones would try to kick them out or prevent from damaging the system, just to see how confident or how good your system is, right? That is a practice that not every company does. I mean, most companies do phishing, that kind of like social hacking, how they call it. Now, it is very interesting that nowadays, I mean, in fact, if you were hacking in the 90s, it was very simple. You would log in and send someone a file, and you could pretty much instantly log into their computer files and download and even look at their address, right? It was easy and simple. Nowadays, with firewalls, with how technology is, we are seeing machines that have dual systems, right? Gives you the ability, yes, to see it over the internet, but also allows you to have a local driver, local information, right? This is a two-pronged approach, in my opinion. One is to have data backups of data, of information, but also in the event of anything were to happen, I do believe that it is important to always consider every scenario. Now, going back to cybersecurity, how is that we're handling or taking a look at this? I don't think many companies are investor or even think that how serious and how critical it is to fail-proof their systems, right? To actually do some hacking into the systems to see what are the loopholes or any backdoors that your system has. Every time that we log onto a Wi-Fi, every time that we log, and the most vulnerable thing that we have is our colleagues, our employees, right? Is anytime they put their USB system, anytime they log into a website, and then especially certain generations where they are not as intuitive as, call it, millennials or even centennials, right? That where they were born already with computers, tablets, and all that. People, I mean, you already know, and most people would know that, hey, if there's a message asking you to update your computer, you know what? It's going to be a virus, or it's going to be something. It's going to be there. It's going to open a backdoor. So more than the systems itself, it's really educate the company, educate everyone how to, and again, do dry runs. Okay, if this were to happen, what is our fail-safe systems to us? And just to wrap it up real quick, to us, it happened that one of our employees clicked something that they weren't supposed to, or they were watching something that weren't supposed to. And so it just there were a bunch of viruses flowing through our system, which shut down our production. So we had a couple hours with no system in our production. The downtime was horrible. We had orders that needed to go out, and that's when we decided to change the design of how our network was. So we divided it into more subdomains to where at the beginning, everyone was at the same domain. There were just a couple of subdomains for the whole system. So again, those are learning curves that companies need to have. No matter how big, how small you are, I believe we all need to take cybersecurity very seriously for that same reason.
Well, thank you for that, Alfonso. That's terrific. I'd like to know what they were watching actually, but that's a different subject. So Buck, why don't you go here, and then I'll have Chris go, and then we'll wrap it up.
What did you want me to? I missed
From the perspective of controls and optimizing controlling the environment, cybersecurity was a topic that was raised. Any feelings around the control space?
I think I'll pass.
Okay, let me go to Chris. Why don't I go to you?
Control space. Yes. I mean, I referred earlier to, wireless technologies, in communication is important in control. And because of that, radio waves and information becomes attainable from exterior. So, as technology becomes more digital, I mean, we're looking at computer viruses being manipulated to control power plants and shut down things. We have to be adaptive. We have to continually adapt to these and be able to move quick enough, which, I think this would be a whole conversation too about government not being fast and acting fast enough. Companies are going to have to act. They have to act on it.
Right. But coming back to you just for a second, one of the things you said you talk a lot about is monitoring and monitoring the manufacturing and productivity and this kind of thing. Anything you want to add there from a monitoring standpoint?
I just think that it needs to be built into the architecture up front. It's very difficult to add it in afterwards. And so when you're talking about upgrading, et cetera, that should be one of the topics about what information are you going to give me off the system that we're talking about here, and what can I do with that information? Because a lot of it needs to be real time in order to have any value whatsoever. And some of it can be monthly reports, and you need to segregate those out, and both the time and the detail of what goes into the monitoring as you're building out the system.
Great. Listen, guys, we're Craig, go ahead. Craig, go ahead, please. Yeah.
I was going to comment. One of the fundamentals we work with is what gets measured or monitored gets managed.
Right.
So think about the converse of that.
Yeah.
If you're not measuring it or monitoring it, I hate to tell you the truth, boys, but you're not managing it.
Yeah.
And the other piece, I think, from a control and a monitoring standpoint, if you're going to use your control system, your PLC or SCADA or DCS for all of your monitoring, it's really expensive platform. It's built for control. And you're not going to be able to afford all of the monitoring you need to do to manage your business like your competitors. So building out and thinking about the design of a information system, a data system, and what the requirements are or are not of that. They may not be necessary to be real time. Using wireless data, whether it's Wi-Fi or cellular, and using batteries to make them easy to deploy to meet your return on investment probably means you're not going to have per se real time. And they can be quite successful if you understand what you're trying to solve.
Great. Buck, one final thought before we wrap up. We're coming into time here, so go ahead.
Yes, Craig had introduced an important point, which is when you're doing the monitoring, there's some core monitoring products you'd like to monitor. I mentioned waste, but there's also temperature. But Craig it mentions another one, which is vibration. And it's absolutely a fundamental core parameter that you need to measure when you're monitoring a process. And vibration means movement. It doesn't necessarily mean vibrating per se, but looking at the way in which movements are happening or not happening is a very key element there.
Great, perfect.
Meg.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Nitin, I think we're at the hour at this point. I'll ask the audience if there are any further questions that you might have. I think we've hit all of them actually. The green question and the cybersecurity question. Any final questions from the audience? Okay, I would guess not. So Nitin, I'm gonna thank everybody and turn it back over to you. Thank you, Alfonso and Craig and Chris and Buck. Nice to meet you all. And Nitin, I'll turn it back to you.
Sure. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Alfonso. Thank you, Buck. Thank you, Christopher. It's not in this order that I have told. It's just what is appearing in front of my screen. So, guys, just to wrap up, it was really, really interesting discussion which we witnessed today. And I really enjoyed it. We would like to thank our technology partner, Digit7, all our community partners, speakers, and attendees who came today for enriching knowledge through this forum. Please log on to our website and like the social media channels. We'll be sharing lots of knowledge sharing topics, details, announcement of next events, and much more, which will help you register and attend the same. Just for your information, the guys who are here, today's event was broadcasted in the YouTube page and Facebook page of our company. So as you like the page, you can also go to the YouTube and the Facebook page. You can see the recording and witness it anytime you want to feel the thought process. There are lots more in store for subsequent months as well, with focus on retail, e-commerce, transportation, aviation, and we'll keep on adding the new topics as it goes on. Request all of you to keep connected with us and enjoy the learning. Have a lovely day, every one of you. Take care. Bye. And we have a great event coming up on 22nd as well. See you all. Take care. Thank you.